Hello and welcome to episode 36 of the Carry On with Carrie podcast. Today I am thrilled to introduce you to Christina G, a recovering heroin and meth addict. By the age of 15, she was hooked on Adderall and eventually meth, and by 19, she was strung out on the needle, doing meth and heroin together. In 2010, her parents sent her to a behavior modification rehab in Oahu, but she left after 3 months and stuck homeless in Hawaii for 10 years. She suffered in her addiction for nearly 16 years, going in and out of rehab and ending up on life support for 5 days from a life-threatening infection directly as a result of her IV use. At age 31, she got on methadone and finally she surrendered to her higher power. Since August 19th of 2021, she has been clean and she has tapered off from 172 milligrams to 19 milligrams of methadone. Today, she is a SUD counselor and she's going to meetings, working her steps, and she goes on retreats and helps other women. This story is amazing. She's a fighter and I really think you're going to get so much out of this. Please know there's some sensitive topics with this episode. I really hope you listen and learn a little bit about a world that maybe not all of us, thank goodness, are familiar with, how we can help, and what their lives are really like. So welcome to the show. Thank you, Christina, for being here. Hello, Christina, and welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing so good, Carrie. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so excited to talk more with you about recovery and life after addiction.
Yes, and I know everything you have to say is going to just help so many people, so thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you so much. I grew up in San Diego. I have one older sister. She is 2.5 years older than me. My parents are still together to this day. We grew up in a middle-class suburb of San Diego. My dad and mom were just the most wonderful parents. My dad coached all of my teams at school, or not at school, sports teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like me and my sister did extracurricular, softball, basketball. I loved doing cheerleading and volleyball, other stuff. And so my dad would coach our teams and stuff. And so, yeah, I had a really, really great childhood. Nothing traumatic happened in my childhood. My issues really started to come into the picture with my body. I hated my body. I felt like I was bigger than all the other girls at school. I think when we did a weigh-in day, I remember being in 7th grade and I weighed 144 pounds and my friends were 100,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 105. So it's I wasn't overweight, because looking back now, 144, that's my goal weight now.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it ridiculous?
I'm working towards weighing that again.
Yeah.
So, I see severe body dysmorphia starting to develop. With the sports that I played, with the volleyball, with the Hoochie Mama spandex, and the cheerleading with the Hoochie Mama skirts, it's just, I felt like all I could see was everybody else's skinny legs. And meanwhile, I had this big old backside.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and all of her sisters have the same body as me. It's like we are very small on top and all of our extra weight is carried on the bottom. At one point when I was 250 pounds, my legs were just literal tree trunks. My thigh fat would hang over my knees because we just carried all in our lower bodies.
Yeah.
And so, growing up in the early 2000s, it wasn't cute to have a big butt and thighs.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wanted to have a small butt and small legs and, the thigh gap. And, I will note that I'm just so grateful that, society has come around to appreciating the curves and the beauty of women. Because,
absolutely.
In 2003, it was not like that. It
Mm-hmm.
was not a thing. You didn't see, plus size girls in magazines.
Not at all.
And so growing up with that was when I'm, 9 to 13, such crucial years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have these 2 best friends that are just absolutely beautiful. It was a group of 4 of us. So 2 of them were super pretty, very skinny, already like developing breasts. And then there's me and my friend, we're like 13 and we're, a little chunky and whatever. And so me and her like stuck together. We were like the funny ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had like the two pretty skinny ones. And so those are the girls that I started going to parties with and like smoking weed with and hanging out with boys for the first time, 13, 14 years old. And I'm seeing that I don't ever get attention from guys. They're always flirting with the skinny, pretty girls. So, okay, that must make me and my value less.
Right. Isn't it crazy how we tell ourselves that? But but you're children. You're a child at that point, just trying to figure it out.
And I wish so badly that I could have seen in a magazine, someone that looked like me. Because, again, I was only like 145 pounds, size 10.
Yeah.
I wasn't even overweight. I was just mid-size.
You were healthy.
Mid-size. Yeah, healthy size.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was where my first issues began. I felt a desperation to be skinny. I tried to starve myself. I couldn't do it because I love food. I tried to diet. I couldn't do it because I love food. I am an emotional eater, a nighttime eater. I would sneak down in the middle of the night, warm up a plate of friggin' 10 buffalo chicken wings, dip them in ranch. I mean, the food was just, I felt like I couldn't control it. Felt very out of control with it. And so that was where I remember feeling just desperate to be skinny. I will do anything to be skinny. And so my friend at school, he was a freshman. It's really sad because he has committed suicide at this point. He committed suicide shortly after high school. He lost a lot of friends to mental health and addiction.
Yeah.
But anyways, he knew that me and my friend Mina, I went by Tina in high school, and my best friend's name was Mina. So we were Mina and Tina. She was like a little Persian girl. She was like up to my chin.
Yeah.
And she wasn't overweight either. She was just a cute little chubby, It wasn't bad. So her and I bonded in our desperation to be skinny. And so we were like, well, let's do cocaine because, we see heroin chic and Kate Moss and let's be skinny and whatever. But the first thing that I got hooked on was Adderall. My friend at school, Dennis, the one who committed suicide, he knew that me and my friend were so desperate to be skinny. And he's like, well, here, take these pills that my parents get for me. I hate them because I can't eat and I can't sleep on them. And I'm like, oh, wonderful. So I think I took like 3, just like right off the bat my first time. So I was twacked the fuck out. Totally addicted right from the start. It's not only helping me diet, but it's helping me do my homework. It's helping me do chores around the house. It's helping me show up to late sports practices. I thought that this was just a magical cure to life, but I 100% honestly had no idea that what I was taking was an amphetamine. I didn't even know what an amphetamine was. But what I also remember about this time is just not being able to be sober. Like, I am smoking weed all day long at this point. By the time I'm a freshman in high school, I'll smoke weed before school, on lunch, after school. But I'm also, still getting really good grades and then playing sports. I made varsity volleyball as a freshman, which was pretty cool. My sister was a junior and I was a freshman, and we were both on varsity. I played JV softball and I did varsity cheerleading too.
So nobody would have even really expected that.
Yeah, no.
Right? Like, it's just, and that's part of it too, is like people, and that's part of the stigma that has to change, is that you were doing this and you were still functioning. You're still doing all the things.
Yeah, it didn't last very long functioning though.
Okay.
Because, I became desperate more and more. 3 pills a day is not enough. I need more. I'm trying to snort the little beads that are in the capsules. Like, just showing really weird, not weird, but just addict behavior, really from a young age. And so I'm smoking weed all day. I'm getting drunk at night almost every night. I am still trying to show up for school and practice and everything. And it was during this time that I was given meth for the first time at a party. This guy in his early 20s was hanging out with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores. And I remember thinking that was weird. And like, why are you here? You're old as fuck. Or I thought, and I remember him asking me, I was smoking weed and drinking. That's what we love to do, me and my friend Mina. We would call it getting crossfaded. Let's get crossfaded tonight. Smoke a bunch of weed and drink. Yeah. If you're drunk, then you get the weed, it like makes you even drunker. So anyways, he says, do you want to go out to my car and smoke with me?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, woo, yeah, let's go. Like, taking shots and shit, thinking that he's going to pull out a pipe or a bong.
Right.
He pulls a meth pipe, the little bubble pipe. And I'm like, oh, what's that?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, it's like cocaine, but better. And at this point, I had tried coke a couple times, but it was just kind of, I didn't really get addicted to cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, okay, sure, give me a hit. And so he, like, lights it for me, and you have to, like, spin the pipe. He literally, like, lit it for me, and I took my first hit of meth. I'll never forget it. It was all downhill from there. I had a part-time job working at a steakhouse called Claim Jumper. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
They used to be known for their 6-layer mother lode cake, chocolate cake.
Okay.
But they steak place, ribs. And so I was a hostess there. That's what I did part-time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I wasn't playing sports or whatever. And so I started smoking meth on the daily. I'm not even 16 years old at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I had to have been 16 because I had a car and I was driving to work. I think I did start smoking it though when I was still 15. So, anyways, my first rehab was in junior year. I went for 30 days. After about 6 months of the meth use, I was getting real skinny. You know, taking pills, like just doing all kinds of concoctions. The volleyball team, I got kicked off the team. That was pretty devastating to me. And I got, you know, just like a big old case of the fuck-its and just whatever. So junior year, my parents I told my parents I'm addicted to this substance and I need help. They put me into therapy and were drug testing me, and I kept coming up dirty. So they sent me to Orange County for 30 days to a youth program. Like, I think it's called the Positive Action Center. But anyways, so that was my first time in rehab, and that was where I was first introduced to 12-step meetings.
Right.
I had a sponsor that would come and pick me up and take me to meetings and stuff from there. So I was there for 30 days, and then I came back, and my junior year is about to start. And my parents and I decided that it would be best if I did like kind of like a homeschool thing where you get like a packet a week and you just have to turn it in. But luckily, it was still associated with my high school, so I could still walk with my class and still get a diploma and all that stuff. It was kind of like the program for like troubled kids or pregnant moms. You know, just like another option. So anyways, I was able to graduate high school with like a 3.4 GPA, just partying my ass off.
Right.
Not staying clean at all, just trying to sneak it. My mom helped me apply for colleges, and I actually got into Cal State Long Beach because I had good grades. And I lasted all of 2 years at college before I was already shooting heroin and shooting meth.
Wow.
And so it was at that point, I think I'm 19 years old, try to go to a few more rehabs locally in San Diego, and it's just not happening. And so my parents, feeling very terrified, feeling very desperate, find this program in Hawaii.
Right.
That's 3 years long. And, you know, my insurance would cover part of it. And it's, it's right in like the Kailua Kaneohe Bay of Oahu.
Okay.
Really beautiful facility. And so at this point, I was like smoking heroin off foil and, you know, just doing meth, and I just can't stay clean. Like I wanted to, but I just couldn't. And so they shipped me off to Hawaii. And so the plan was for me to go to this 3-year-long program and then come back home. But little did I know, this program was not 12-step. It was not therapeutic. It was military style, if you will. Wake up at 6 a.m, corners of the beds got to be tucked perfectly. Do not look at the men. Do not talk to the men. You need to go everywhere with a buddy. And they just did very strange things for treatment. Like, I'm just going to tell you right now. So your first day there, like a new client, what they do is, if you're female, 2 female staff will take you to a shower, watch you shower, literally give you the soap to shower with, and stand there, make you bend over, make sure nothing's in there. And we signed waivers to all this. So, I mean,
and did your parents know about that part?
Yeah, but they didn't care. I mean,
right. They just wanted it to work.
Yeah. I mean, having 2 staff members like look at me naked to see if I have drugs, like I didn't really care that much. And they knew that was part of programs.
Yeah.
And so anyways, once I got there, I also learned that program is a huge part of Hawaii's judicial systems. So they have a bunch of rehabs there that are 30 days, 60 days, maybe 90 days. And so if you do catch a burglary charge and you're facing 10 years, but you also have a drug problem, the judge will give you a chance, send you to the 30-day program. Oh, you fucked up there? All right, well, now you're going to go to the 90-day program. Oh, you fucked up there? Last stop on the block before you're going to do your prison term is Habilitat.
Wow.
That's what the place is called, is Habilitat. And so it's 120 people, men and women, and a majority of them are on their last leg to jail, to prison.
Right.
So just extremely dangerous and people that don't want to change and just that are very, I don't know. So what they do is they bring you into the office on your first day there and they say, why do you want to be here? Tell us why you want to be here. All right, well, you need help? Scream for it. Scream for help. Okay, help. No, scream for it. Scream for help. And they're like yelling at you like a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
Okay, help. No, say it like you mean it. And it's like just very strange, humiliating things.
Yeah.
And were not helping me at all. They would do this stuff in front of the whole family. That's what they called everyone there, the family. There's 120 people there.
And you're living in shame and guilt, and that's what brought you to the place you were. And now you've got these people screaming at you.
Yeah, and they'll say mean things too, like they'll figure out what your weak point is, and then so I guess the whole program is not like that. It's only the first 6 months. And then once you move into the second phase of the program, then it's a little more, easy.
Right.
But that shit was traumatizing as fuck to me. And I it didn't help me. But I'm only 20 years old. And my parents told me, like, this is your last chance. If you leave this program, we're done.
Right.
You're on your own. Sure enough, I left after like 2 months, went out and partied for like a whole weekend, ended up like downtown at some tweaker's apartment. I had never been to the island before. I was just going up to random people and asking them and whatever. So after like 4 days of partying, I went back to the facility because I had tried to call my parents and they're like, well, we're not taking you home. So I tried to go back there. And what they did was they took me back and they made me sit in the corner for 10 days. And so I had to wake up at 6 a.m. and sit in the corner and face the wall all day until midnight. So 18-hour days. They would bring me my meals. They would take me on maybe 2 smoke breaks. But other than that, I had to stay facing the corner. I couldn't look right. I couldn't look left. And I could hear everything, like groups that were going on and stuff. And people would be walking by me all day. And it was just so fucking humiliating. And so you never know how long a punishment is going to last there. If a guy fucks up, what they do is they shave his head.
Oh my God.
And they can't do that to the women. So if a woman does something bad, they make you wear a stocking cap or like a do-rag.
Right.
You have to tuck all your hair up into it, every single last piece, so that there's not a single hair showing. And it's to break you down. It's to humiliate you. It's to teach you to stop, as a woman, using your, hair and face and beauty to get places in life.
Right.
I don't even know.
That's, it's so disturbing because nobody would, like, how do you know unless, thank you for sharing this because I had no clue. I've heard of some of the rehabilitations and it was like in the 90s and stuff. And it was like boot camp for kids. Yeah. And so this sounds a little bit similar, but this sounds like that on steroids.
So, you add that into the picture, you add, the fact that most of the girls there are local Hawaiian women and they just don't like white people. A majority of Hawaiians do not like white people. They call us haoles and, you stole our land. And by all means, I respect that. I always try to be respectful to them. I let them borrow my clothes. And these women, keep in mind, most of them have already been to a bunch of other rehabs and have fucked up in a way. And so they're mean, they're aggressive, they're abusive, not physically, but just they would like make me feel like I could trust them and then just totally turn around and fuck me over. So anyways, after 10 days of sitting in the corner, I said, you know what? I can't fucking do this. And I got up and left with the clothes on my back. Yeah. I didn't even grab any of my stuff. I just left. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have money. I didn't have a single thing on me. And but I knew I wasn't going to go back there because I knew that place was not helping me. I could see it maybe working for those that are on their last leg to jail, you know, but not me. Like, I wasn't court ordered there. I'm just like a little white girl from San Diego that's very, you know, I wouldn't have said this at the time because I thought I was so fucking cool and badass, but I was very naive, very naive at this point in time. And so from there, I ended up getting enough money from, you know, panhandling to get on a bus to go to the downtown Honolulu homeless shelter. And I was there for a few nights, and then I took another bus out to a different homeless shelter in the different part of the island that's not like, it's called Pearl City. But anyways, and I'm just like, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? You know, I had a few changes of clothes from the donations at the homeless place. I didn't have anything, but I knew that I didn't want to be clean. And I was going and stealing bottles of alcohol and finding homeless people to smoke drugs with and stuff. But at a certain point, I'm terrified. And I'm like, I need housing and I need shelter. And so I found a program on the west side of Oahu that's a 90-day program. And it's like 12-step based. They take us to meetings and, you know, you move into their outpatient and sober living after just like a regular rehab, you know, that I have been to and that I'm familiar with. And so that's where I was. I stayed in inpatient for 90 days. I was clean for 93 days total. And then I relapsed on meth. And so at that point, I started working at Chili's. I was making like $350 every 2 weeks. It was so small, but those paychecks got me a loan for $2,000 from the bank right next door to get a car. My dad kind of helped me with the process. Like, he wasn't there, but he, you know, did help a little bit. So I get this little red car and I'm driving back and forth to work, and then I go in full-blown relapse mode. That was when I injected pain meds for the first time. I had smoked off oil and stuff, and I had injected black tar heroin, but I had never injected like a Dilaudid or a morphine. And so I started shooting up Dilaudid every day, and eventually got fired from Chili's and eventually just became a full-time addict living in my car, homeless in Hawaii.
And homeless in Hawaii, you know, people, oh, well, at least you're in Hawaii. I've heard like some stories about homelessness there. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of homeless there, and it is a nice place weather-wise to be homeless because it really doesn't ever get that cold there.
Yeah.
However, it's incredibly dangerous. There's parts of Honolulu and the island that are full of gangs, full of drugs. You know, there's cartels that are based out there selling. You know, cartels place people in every single state, and that includes Hawaii. And so, you know, I knew of this one guy that owed them $3,000, and they fucking took him up to the top of one of the mountains, I forget what it was called, drove him all the way up there, slit his fucking throat, and killed him, and then cut his dick and balls off and stuffed him in his mouth. So that's how the police found him. This is like someone that I knew, a homeless person on the street. Yeah, it's really scary because I lived there for 10 years. At a certain point when I was living in my car, I was just surviving off like, you know, asking people for money, panhandling at the gas station. Like, I was getting like a 20 paper a day, maybe like $20 worth of drugs a day. And then I met the man who ends up trafficking me.
Oh, I hope you're enjoying this episode so far as much as I am. It's an intense story from Christina, and it takes a lot of bravery for her to share. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope somebody gets either the motivation or the strength to know that there is hope in recovery. This is the part of the show that I'd like to give a shout out to. tinybead.co. So the Tiny Bead Company, she's based out of London, Ontario. She started this as a creative outlet while on her first maternity leave in 2019. She started making teethers and pacifiers. And she enjoyed it so much that she decided to branch out and begin selling them online. And yeah, I think it's such a cool name, and I think you'd be happy to check her out. You can find her on her handle on Instagram at tinybead.co, and if you'd like to find out more about her Etsy shop, you can also give her a follow on there. All the links are in her Instagram bio. If you're interested in functional, stylish, affordable, handmade accessories, you have to give them a follow. And yeah, give them a follow and some support.
I want people to understand that human trafficking does not always look like getting kidnapped in a white van and being fed drugs in a dark, shady place. You know, it's not always like that. There are so many ways and forms of human trafficking. And so the way that it was done to me was a man took advantage of my feelings for him. Okay. I was homeless when I met this man. I was literally high on meth. My face was all picked out. I looked terrible when I met him for the first time. I was trying to clean my car out under a shaded parking structure, because in Hawaii, if you're homeless, it does get really fucking hot.
Yeah.
So you want to try and escape the hot, not the cold, though. And I remember him walking up to me with another guy who I recognized. This guy, Dave, had like a long beard, and I just remember him very vividly. He was a person that helped me. He had a room that he rented in a nearby apartment complex, and would let me sleep over there a couple times, and never tried to have sex with me or was weird or perverted about it.
Right.
And so I see Dave, and then I see him walking with Austin, and I was like, oh, hi, you know, who's your friend? And then even Austin was like, oh, who's this, Dave? Who's this? You know, because even though I was like all picked out and stuff, I mean, I still had like long red hair, and, you know, I guess you don't really see a lot of girls like, you know, with blue eyes and tattoos in Hawaii, or at least where I was.
Yeah.
He was a white and Native American mixed with a little bit of Hawaiian. From the second that we met, we started hanging out in the car. He could tell right off the bat that I was an addict. He had just gotten out of being in prison for 2 years. He was only 21 when we met. I was 22. I was 1 year older than him.
Oh, so
he
young.
had just gotten out of doing 2 years in prison. And so when he saw me and when he met me, I was literally like a perfect opportunity for him to manipulate me, because he could tell right off the bat that I thought he was cute and I was flirting with him. And I had no idea that people even did it like this. I still thought that prostitution meant walking on the side of the road with heels, or, you know, human trafficking, being tied up in a room somewhere. I never even thought that somebody that I was getting to know, that, you know, was looking out for me, he didn't have a place to stay either. Right. He had just gotten out of prison. So he was literally staying with me in my car. And slowly but surely started just wooing me, Prince Charming me, really just making me fall in love with him. And it didn't help that I was strung out. I fucking hated myself. I had no self-worth. My standard of men was below zero.
Yeah.
And so it was just, I mean, it was just perfect. Not perfect in a good way, but just the way that it fit together, because after about a month of hanging out, when he starts saying things along the lines of, why don't you do what Prince and his girlfriend do? We knew this couple. Why don't you do what she does? And I look at him, well, why would you want me to do that? I don't want to do that. Okay, and he'd kind of let it go, and then he'd, you know, try again, and then you could have all the money you want for all the drugs you want. You could have as much drugs as you want, because at this point, I'm still only surviving off a tiny little bit of drugs a day. Always fiending for more, always carpet surfing, trying to find more drugs around. And so when he starts presenting it like that to me, you know, you'll have multiple grams of dope to keep on you, and I started like really considering it, honestly. Right. And he also made it seem to me like if I didn't do it, he wasn't going to hang out with me anymore.
Right.
You know, because when he first brought it up to me, I was like, I felt so offended a couple weeks, and I was always thinking, like, what is Austin doing? Where is he? What is he doing? He didn't have a phone. And so when he contacted me from someone's phone, like 2 weeks later, I was like, well, what are you doing? And can I come back? Because I was kind of like staying with him and Prince. It was Prince's place and he would let us sleep over sometimes. I'm like, well, can I come over and can I come back? He's like, well, if you want to come back, like you have to do this. There's no will you or can you. It's if you want to come back, you have to do it.
Right.
And so that's how it started. And I remember just them putting me in heels and a dress and putting me out in Waikiki to walk with all the other girls. And I did not know what I was doing at all. And it was very uncomfortable. And they ended up putting me into one of the massage parlors. They had like illegal Asian massage parlors that were like underground and like super like, sketchy or whatever. And so I worked in one of those for like 2 months. And I just remember loving all the drugs I was able to get, but definitely not loving how I was feeling about myself and the deeper shame that was growing every single day. I hated having these strange men on top of me, and I hated it so much. But the promise of like a big fat shot of heroin and meth mixed together, because eventually that's what I was doing.
Yep.
I was putting them in the same shot and injecting them together. A big old shot of that was enough for me to lay on my back for 5 minutes and get it over with. Not even realizing like how much trauma I'm putting on myself, because all I care about at this point is getting drugs and keeping Austin nearby. Because anytime that I started to say like, I don't want to do this anymore, like, can we try and do like sell drugs or something? And he'd always be like, oh, you want to be like that then? All right, then peace. And he's like, leave. And leave me feeling so terrified and abandoned. And, Austin eventually was physically abusive too. He would choke me out and punch me if I didn't want to, go do more dates or whatever. And I couldn't leave him. I didn't have the balls to. And I just kept thinking that he was going to change.
Yeah.
And so he finally ends up just having enough of me, because all I want to do is drugs. Like, I don't even want to use the money for a room. It's like, I'd rather have more drugs than sleep in my car. And he just, it was just so incredibly toxic. We were fighting all the time. And it's like, leave me the fuck alone, bitch.
Yeah.
And I laid there in the fetal position, crying my eyes out. I realized at that point I couldn't chase him anymore. I hoped that maybe a block away or 2 blocks away of him walking away from me, that he would have turned around and saw what he did to me.
Yeah.
Not just in that moment, but in the last year and a half, and come back to at least help me. And when I realized that he wasn't coming back for me, I got up and I shuffled myself to my car. And one of my dealers at the time, his name was Fred, he plays a large part in my story. He ended up being my best friend out there. He was a dealer, but he was a God-fearing man and hated what he was doing too. He didn't really have like addiction problems as bad as I did, but he went to prison for 25 years, read the Bible back to front, knew it back to front. And he just, he was like 55 when I met him. And so anyways, I reached out to him, and he's the one who welcomes me into his home and protects me and helps me for the next couple years. And at this point, all I cared about doing was sleeping, eating, and nodding out. And so I got really, really fat, like really fast. I got like, I think I hit like 250 pounds. And I didn't know how to deal with, all of the trauma that I had just experienced. I didn't even realize that I had just been abused. I didn't realize that I was traumatized. How I still saw it in my mind was my boyfriend just left me. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's what abuse does to a person, is you don't, like, you've lost yourself completely. Like, you're not even the same person.
So I have my little dog, and I'm just living with Fred, and I'm hating myself, wanting to die, like hoping that every shot I do will just take me already. And Fred's girlfriend eventually comes back into the picture, and he very respectfully asks me to leave, and also says, find a room and I'll rent it for you. And by the time 2016 comes around, my veins are all blown out, and I have a horrible infection developing in my spinal cord due to not using clean needles and other behaviors such as that. I had abscesses and infections all over my body because at this point I'm shooting up in my neck and my feet and my fingers and my forehead and anywhere that I could find a vein. That's a big part of my story, is losing all of my veins. And so anyways, I ended up in the ICU and on life support from developing sepsis, endocarditis, and osteomyelitis, which is they're basically just all forms of sepsis. The endocarditis was in my heart, and the osteomyelitis was in my spinal cord. I did that much drugs to that point. That's what I put myself to. And the doctor didn't know if I was going to live or die. He said if she survives, she's probably going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of her life because I had a huge ass abscess inside of my spine. And amazingly, my parents flew out. And after 5 days, I woke up. And I saw both of my parents sitting there, and I don't really remember much. So they stayed in town for another week or so and took my dog Major back home to California with them. And, I was going to continue to stay in the hospital until I got better. However, after 10 days, after waking up, I pulled everything out of my arms and left because I wanted to go get high. The doctor told me, if you leave, you're going to die. You need to be here. I was still in the ICU, and I said, I don't care. Where do I sign? Because I want to go.
Yeah.
It ended up taking, I believe, 8 months and 4 different ICU admissions for me to finally clear the infection from my body. I was that ill. I mean, I was so sick. My parents, I know that they had been hoping me being on life support would have been enough for me to change.
Yeah.
What has scared me into changing. Because after probably 4 years in Hawaii, like after everything happened with Austin, my parents wanted me to come home.
Yeah.
I mean, they knew, not everything that happened. They didn't realize that he trafficked me. They just knew that I was in a very, very bad relationship that ended terribly, and I was suicidal. And so, yeah, they wanted me to come home.
Yeah.
And it took me another 7 years of using out there before I came home. So amazingly, the infection clears from my body, and I still keep using. The breaking point for me was in 2020. My legs were this big around. I was developing congestive heart failure. My ankles were so swollen because of the heart murmur and the congestive heart failure problems. I had abscesses all over me. And so anyways, I was covered. I had no veins left at all. At this point, my neck doesn't work. My femoral vein doesn't work. When addicts run out of veins, like literally everywhere, the last and final places that they go are right here in their neck or down in next to their femoral artery, which is so fucking dangerous. It is literally so dangerous that we just do it in our rooms, like with dull and dirty needles. And so anyways, my body's covered in scars, infections. I'm looking at myself, fucking hate myself, can't even look at myself in the mirror, just full of disgust. And then I went in I think May of 2020 for an abscess because I needed it to get drained at the ER. And the doctor comes in and is like, well, I just wanted to say congratulations. And I'm like, for what? My abscess? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, no, you're pregnant. And I'm like, what? What? Remember, I had gained, like, at this point, I was like 250 pounds. My boobs had gotten a lot bigger too. I thought I was just fat because all I did was shoot heroin, eat ice cream, fucking eat fast food, and just really bad behaviors.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I go to Planned Parenthood and they tell me that I'm over 15 weeks pregnant. And so by the time that I get an abortion planned and everything, I'm 16 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
And so I'm almost 4 months in getting this abortion. I have never had one before. I decided I couldn't have the child because I was just so strung out on everything. And I knew that I couldn't just stop, so I tried to make a good decision for that child. The only person that I'm sleeping with, and having unprotected sex with, was a client, Roy. His name's Roy. He started seeing me when I was with Austin still, when I was 22 years old. And he literally saw me like once a week until I moved back, like almost 10 years.
Wow.
So he definitely was kind of like, I guess he really liked me. I mean, I guess you could say he was like in love with me. He was like this 50-year-old Hawaiian man, a little overweight, such a sweet, nice, kind man. And he was kind of like another Fred type figure to me. Like he would help me. I could call him in a crisis and he would come and help me.
Yeah.
Finally come back to California. The abortion
Right.
was extremely painful. They told me that it was going to feel like period cramps, or like having a biopsy done. Like I had gotten pap smears before I gotten like a biopsy done. Before I know it, just kind of feels like cramping, and yeah, it kind of hurt. That's what they told me that it was going to feel like. And so I just laid on the table and spread my legs. I'm like, let's just do this. I had no idea how fucking painful it was going to be. I was screaming, fucking bloody murdered. Stop. Like they kept having to turn the vacuum off and stop.
Yeah.
I kept saying, stop. And so finally I said, I can't do this. Like, y'all need to put me under or something, because still to this day, I have never felt something that painful in my entire fucking life.
Right.
And so what happened was they gave me a diaper to wear home and said, this is not like safe. We're only halfway done. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I literally can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't. And so I went back the next day for and was put under anesthesia, and they finished. And so that was extremely fucking traumatic. Again, I didn't realize how traumatic it was at the time. I didn't even face any of those feelings until much, much later on. But that was one of the turning points. Me starting to develop congestive heart failure was very scary to me, and how out of breath I was getting and how big my ankles were getting. And I was done. I mean, I was sick of it. Like, I did want to stop. I didn't know I couldn't. So finally, in summer of 2020, my mom and dad bring me back home. I move in with them. I start going to outpatient at this program, but it was during COVID, so it was all on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on methadone. And that was when I titrated up all the way up to 172 milligrams. And at a certain point in like September of 2020, I also stopped using heroin. I was going to meetings. I was, doing outpatient. And I was going back to school. And then one night, randomly in March, so I have like a little over 6 months clean at this point, I'm like, I want to have a drink, because alcohol is not my problem, and I'm sick of being fucking sober, and I just want to feel a buzz.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and I got my parents' Bacardi out of their shelf, and I drank 4 shots. And it's literally as soon as the alcohol started coursing through my body, I was like, that's it. This feels good, but I need drugs now.
Yeah.
So that turned into a month-long relapse, and that cracked out video you see of me where I'm crying, and I post that a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
That was me, like a few days before I went into treatment this last and final time.
Right.
I broke down so fast, just after a month of using.
Well,
dropped out of school, lost my job that I had. And so, and my parents also told me,
any kind of addiction, as you probably know from the 12 steps, it's a progressive disease. So when you stop, and then you start again, you go right back to where you were, and your body can't take it because you've been clean for a while, but you're going to use the same. And that's what kills a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just got bad so fast. And so, when I got a text from my parents saying that, you can't come home, we changed the locks, if you come home, we're going to call the police on you. I just thought, I want to die. I can't do this anymore. And so I actually recorded myself. That's what that video is I'm telling my parents that I'm about to do a huge shot of fentanyl because I want to die, because I can't do this anymore. And how fucking selfish and just uncool of me to fucking take that video and then send it to my sponsor, my mom, my dad, my sister. Like, I was such a little fucking attention drama queen. But I can definitely see that that was it for me. I mean, that was my breaking point. And, probably 6 months into my recovery, I saw that video looking through old pictures, and I was like, oh my God, I had forgotten about it. My mom was like, you should just delete that. And I was like, no, this is literally like the worst that I have ever looked. I mean, the drug use is just so apparent in my skin, my hair, my behavior, everything. And I feel like that video truly shows how bad I got.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so
it's a huge impact, that's for sure. And to see where you've come from then.
Yeah, because that was by summer I was in the psych ward and then to a crisis house, and then I figured out at that moment in time when I was at the crisis house, I had no idea what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I wanted to be sober. I didn't know if I could. My parents wouldn't let me home, but I needed to make a plan because you can only stay at the crisis houses, I think, for 2 to 4 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was a girl there, a trans woman. I forget her name, but she was so cute and so funny, and we like hung out all the time. And she's trying to get into Serenity House. She's calling. You got to call like every day, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, fuck, I should just put myself back there too. Serenity House is the same treatment center that I went to in 2009. I actually went there twice before my parents shipped me off to Hawaii.
Oh.
I went to that program twice. And so now here we are now we're 2021, and I'm like, I should just go back there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why the fuck not?
Yeah.
And it was at that point too that I finally realized deep within my soul that I need to do this for myself. I can't do this because my mom and dad want me to be clean. Right. I can't do this for my health. Like, I just can't.
You have to be ready.
Else other than myself.
Yeah.
And so that was what was different that time.
Mm-hmm.
I was still on the methadone. They let you take methadone there. I was there for 3 months. It's a 90 to 120 day program. And then I relapsed a couple times while I was there. I remember having a very disturbing conversation with my friend Fred. Not disturbing, but he was rambling and mumbling and talking to himself on the phone. And I remember telling my roommate at the time, he does not sound good. I feel like he's on his last leg here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because at this point, he's like 65. And anyways, sure enough, about right after I got out of rehab, I got a phone call that he was found overdosed in our apartment bathroom. Because my last like 3 years of Hawaii, Fred's girlfriend passed away from sepsis, and then the mother of his children also passed away within that same year from alcoholism. She was 69 pounds and she died.
Ugh.
And this poor man was just devastated, and he wasn't selling drugs anymore. He's a vet, I think, so he got like maybe $2,700 a month, and that was enough for him to live off of.
Mm-hmm.
And so him and I lived in his studio for my last 3 or 4 years in Hawaii, just using, and I would go out and do dates with guys and bring back drugs for us and shit, because Fred took good care of me when he had the ability to as a dealer. Yeah. And I saw that he needed me now. And I was like 30 days clean when I found out that he died. And I just remember deciding right then and there, like, I can't do this anymore. And I had a few thoughts of like using, my aunt was going to pay me $200 to do her hair, and she gave me the $200. And like just a few days before that, I was thinking about, I should just go pick some up and get high.
Yeah.
Because that's how powerful the disease is. No matter what the fuck it puts you through, it's like you could still find a way to justify using it again.
Yeah. Your brain's a tricky machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fred dying was definitely, I'm pretty sure, the last and final straw for me. I just didn't have any doubt in my mind anymore. I said, I have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I have to do this, no matter what it takes. And so I did. And I slowly but surely started to heal. I would say the real healing didn't really come in until after I was 2 years clean. My first 2 years was just like getting through it.
Yeah.
I do not recommend not doing the steps like I did because I'm still not done with them. But I went to meetings. My first job in recovery was at Target. I worked 40 hours a week at Target in the beauty department. My boyfriend, who I met at the time, was living in sober living. I was living in sober living. He got a job at Dunkin' Donuts factory. And so that's where he worked, and that's where I worked for our first 6 months or so in recovery. And we saved and saved and saved, and we were able to move out together and rent a room somewhere. Now he works as a house manager at a co-occurring rehab. So it's dual diagnosis. It's more psychiatric though. Like his clients are more schizophrenic, bipolar, responding to auditory and visual hallucinations.
Yep.
Whereas where I work now is just a rehab for substance abuse.
But the fact that you've both met each other at the right time and you're both just ready to make such a huge change for yourselves.
It's been a ride, and I feel like I have such a stronger relationship with my higher power than I did in my first, year or two, because I've been tapering down this entire time off the methadone. When I got clean this last and final time, my last use was 8/18/21. I did fentanyl up in the room in rehab, inside of rehab, where I now work.
Yeah, wow. So are you working at Serenity then?
I am working at Serenity now. Okay. That's where I got hired, and so that is what has been such a come full circle moment for me. So I've slowly been tapering down off methadone this whole time. The highest I was 172, and in almost 2.5 years, I'll be on Monday I'm going down to 15. I'm doing 1 milligram a week until I'm off. So
wow,
I'm bound and determined. And you know what? It's not easy. I do feel it. I do feel the withdrawals, and I do feel symptoms, but it's nothing that is unmanageable or unbearable, and it's nothing that a few coping skills doesn't help with. My job is actually incredibly freaking hectic.
Yeah.
It's a huge facility. There's 61 women there right now.
Wow.
Most of our women are either court ordered from jail custody, or they have an open CWS case and are trying to get their child back in their care.
Right.
So it's not like a bougie place, it's like pretty run down and is an old facility. But I mean, I'm in the thick of it. Yeah. This is where the hardest part of treatment is. And every day I have like a crisis situation that I need to deal with another client. I found drugs in a room yesterday. So it's a very hard place to work, but the rewards and this is how I'm looking at it. Like, this is how my higher power has been working for me.
Go back and give yourself some advice. What would that be? And something that would, to somebody else that might hear this.
Yeah. I would tell myself to love myself, and to turn all that attention that I need from everybody else, and I need validation from this man and this comment and this amount of likes. Stop seeking for that outer validation from others and start seeking it from within yourself. Because all my life till I was 31, you think my outfit is cool? Okay, I think my outfit's cool. You don't like my hair like this? Okay, well, now I don't like my hair like this. And so it's taken me a long time to come to this place of, I don't give a shit if people don't like me. I don't care if they don't think what I'm doing is legit or sober. I just don't care anymore. The only opinion that I care about now is my own, my sponsor, my higher power, and my family. Yeah. And God has acted in such miraculous ways for me too. I will add in that 4 days after that, I found out that Fred died, where I was kind of teetering on whether or not I even wanted to still stay sober. Bradley was introduced into my life, an outpatient. I found out Fred died on a Friday night. It was a 3-day weekend. So when I go back in on Tuesday for my outpatient class, we have a new guy sitting in the waiting room with us with a motorcycle helmet in his hand and a sleeve full of tattoos and, just my type, of course. And I remember thinking, being very determined to not focus on men, don't get into a relationship. It's not advised. You really should just be by yourself in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what the hell, God? Why are you tempting me?
Yes. Yeah, I know.
But slowly but surely we got to know each other, and we took things very, very slow. We just did meetings together in the beginning. We didn't do anything physical we waited a couple months, which I never did before. I used to always just sleep with men right off the bat because I thought if I didn't, that they wouldn't like me. But really, that's not the way to do it, ladies.
No, do not do that. It's not recommended.
Tapering off of medication like methadone or Suboxone is totally like personal to the person. Some people need to stay on these medications for life. Some people can't handle the taper. And because it's not easy, I mean, it's like slowly coming off of something, but I think I decided that I wanted to get off of it when I realized like that it has a lot of side effects. Like it makes me crave sugar. It kind of makes me tired all the time and make it like I have no energy. And the biggest motivation is because I want to have a family. I want to start a family. I don't have any children yet. I'm going to be 35 in a couple of months. Well, actually next month. And my boyfriend is 49. And so we want to start a family. So that's the main and biggest motivation for me when it starts to get difficult. But what I did is I was on 172 milligrams. That was the highest that I ever was. I was using a very large amount of heroin and fentanyl when I stopped. The amount and dose that you will need will depend on how much you're using, how frequently you're using, how long you've been using. And I was on heroin and fentanyl for like 13 years straight, 16 years total of addiction. And so I was one of the types that I needed to get up really high. So what you do is methadone, you can start it at the same time while you're still taking the fentanyl or whatever, and you slowly titrate up on your dose. Like the first dose they give you is 40 at my clinic, and then the next day it's like you can go up 43 and then 47, and so you slowly titrate up until you feel comfortable, to where you feel stable, to where you feel like you're not having withdrawals. And I personally put myself up really, really high because I was still in my addictive thinking. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, the higher that I go, maybe it will give me a high or a rush or something. It never does that. It doesn't give you euphoria. It can make you tired, but it's not like fentanyl nodding where it feels really good and euphoric. Like, it's just like, oh, I can't stay awake and I want to go lay down. Right. And so anyways, Suboxone is a little different though because it has naloxone in it, which is a blocker. And what it does is when you take Suboxone, it instantly takes whatever is on your opiate receptor and just kicks it off. Okay. Like, bye, we're taking over now. And that puts people into instant withdrawal. And so there's something called precipitated withdrawal, where if you take Suboxone too soon, you will be put into withdrawal. So that's why I chose methadone, because I could start it while I'm still, using the other stuff, the bad stuff. Right. And you don't have to, the way to properly start Suboxone is you have to wait until you're in full-blown withdrawal, like probably 36 to 48 hours in, before you can take your first dose. And when we're strung out like that, I mean, I would start getting sick after like 6 to 8 hours. And so to be like, oh my God, I have to deal with 24 hours more of this before I can even take the first dose. Right. So it's, some people can do it. I personally couldn't. Suboxone wasn't a good choice for me. So that's why I chose methadone. And so once I got up high enough, I stopped doing the other stuff. Mm-hmm. And yeah, just went on from there. And so that's what I've been on since. Right. So having kind of explained all of that, it's because I find it so fascinating. And for people that maybe, have no clue and the judgment is there and it can happen to anybody. And it's, I don't know if addiction is a tricky beast. And, I congratulate you on your sobriety. So I just, I just want this, the stigma of this has to get softer, I think. I know. And it really can. It can push people to relapse. My thinking in the beginning was, you're telling me I can't take tokens? Okay, well then I might as well just go use. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have been pushed out of the rooms and said, well, fine, if you don't think I'm clean, then I'm just going to go do my fucking drug of choice. Right. Because we really irrational and very selfish thinking with this disease. Mm-hmm. The smallest thing can trigger us to go and relapse. Mm-hmm. Because we don't have coping skills. We don't know how to deal with anything in the beginning. And so that's why I believe the stigma is so dangerous, is because it's not just heroin and Vicodin and pain pills anymore. This fentanyl shit, I don't even need to say it, how dangerous it is. One relapse means death for most, because it's just such a powerful substance. I honestly only used it for maybe a year. What I mostly used was black tar heroin, which is what is usually on the West Coast. West Coast. Part of my story was, living in Hawaii for 10 years too, which I can tell you a little bit more about that too. But yeah, there's lots of stigma, and the people that do talk shit or leave comments that, oh, well, you're not really clean, you're still hooked to your deal, or like stupid stuff like that. I used to let it make me all upset, and I'd respond and go back and forth with them in the comments. But now I've gotten to a point where I just block them.
Yeah, good for you.
If I see anything that is not conducive or supportive of what I'm doing, I just block them, because I'm a sensitive little Pisces, and I get my feelings hurt. I have no problem admitting that, because it plays a part in who I am. I'm very sensitive, and if people say mean things to me, it hurts my feelings.
But the thing is too, like I'm the exact same way, and learning your boundaries, like healthy boundaries, and it's okay to say fuck off. Like, I don't need to listen to you. Like, you mean nothing in my life. And it's hard on social media, especially sometimes. Like, and you mentioned TikTok. Have you had the lovers and the haters there? You said you're getting more women.
I've definitely had some hate comments and some trolls, but I would say it's such a small percentage compared to all the positive stuff I get. I've had a couple videos go semi-viral, if you will, because they're maybe 20,000 views, 30,000 views. Most of it is like 90 to 95%, like, just congrats, you're amazing, thanks to God, just positive. And then just get that one stupid comment, and it's just not worth it. Why am I going to focus on that one comment when I have hundreds of positive comments?
Exactly.
But, it took me time to come to that place, when I first started doing this recovery stuff on Instagram, and it was like I take shit all personal, and but anyways, I want to go back to what you said about how it can happen to anybody, about getting hooked on opiates. Because I wasn't prescribed opiates, but I started by taking Vicodins, which is a pain pill. Vicodins, morphine, like Oxycontin, back in like 2010-ish. Everyone was getting prescribed oxys. I'm sure you're aware it was overprescribing of medications. And so almost every single person that I know that is a fentanyl addict or turned into a heroin addict started because of a couple pills. And this is back when they actually were pills. And so it can be a tooth infection that you get 5 Vicodin for, that can tumble into, within a year, injecting heroin. And so, it really is, it can happen to anybody. And there's so much shame in this disease. And I want people to see that, I came from a very wonderful family. My parents were still together. My dad coached our softball teams, and my mom, went to every game, and we had, from the outside looking in, an ideal, beautiful childhood. I just wanted to say, like, another thing that I wish, someone would have told me. But you know what? Like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm sure people did try and tell me, like, he doesn't really love you, for one. This is not love. And, I'm sure that people in my life did tell me that, but I just didn't want to hear it. I just wish I could go back to being, 12 years old again, and be told that it's okay to have a curvy body. It's okay to have womanly curves and thighs and all that, because nobody said that to me. It was not okay then. Not like my parents ever, like, told me anything like that, but, you just didn't see that. You didn't see magazine articles of girls that are a size 14 and just loving it.
Yeah.
All you saw in the media was skinny girls. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't have cravings and that I'm all healed or anything, because I am a hardcore addict. I was addicted to some very powerful things, and I just found drugs on site last night.
Right.
So I do still have cravings. I do still have triggers. However, what I have gotten really good at is completely playing the tape forward. This last relapse, this time, God, it was in 2021, finally showed me that what happens when I use.
Yes.
Okay, I want to be skinny and I want energy. I really want to do some meth right now. Okay, well, what's going to happen if you do meth? Well, I'm going to be all crazy and twacked out, and then I'm going to stay up all night, and then I'm going to start to come down tomorrow morning, and I'm going to start seeking out heroin or fentanyl because I can't handle the meth come down.
Yeah.
It's just such an agitated, anxious feeling. That's why I was always mixing them together.
Right.
And so probably by tomorrow, I would be either trying to smoke or shoot fentanyl or heroin.
Yeah.
And then I'd be right back in the opiate addiction again. And I just don't, the progress that I've made with my taper, if I was to relapse and start using fentanyl again, I would have to go back up probably to like at least 100.
Mm-hmm.
And it would take me all this time to taper all the way back off again.
Yes.
So play the tape forward. Know yourself. Know your triggers. And just know where it takes you, and don't let yourself be fooled by it's going to be different this time, because it's not.
No, it's not. It's going to get worse. And so, the way I look at the one thing that helped me when I quit drinking was 24 hours. I can get through today, because that was the biggest for me. The biggest stress was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to drink again. We're only promised today. We're only promised, that moment. So that's it. Now that's gotten me through so many other things in my life too.
Yeah. And sometimes like at night I'll have a craving or whatever, and I'll, this is more in the beginning stages, probably within the first 6 months. I have intense cravings, and I actually think like maybe I could, but then I would end up saying, no, like just go to sleep, and if you still want to do it tomorrow, you can. And then I remember multiple occasions waking up and thinking, I am so glad that I didn't do that last night.
Yeah.
And what if I had done it? And I think about how horrible I would feel about myself. And so you just have to know deep within your heart and soul that you are powerless over this disease.
That's right.
And you'll never be able to control it or moderate it or change it. And the only way of true healing is the daily reprieve and, the daily inventory and all that jazz, just looking at yourself and just being positive with yourself. Because before, my self-talk was, I'm a fucking fat piece of shit, junkie addict, scars all over me, I'm disgusting, I was a prostitute, just used, and that's how I talked to myself.
Oh yeah.
And finally I realized, like, one of my sober support sisters told me, you need to talk to yourself how you would talk to a sick loved one or your best friend. And I'm like, okay, well, I would definitely never say any of those things to my family or best friend. So why am I saying it to myself?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's when you think about how we talk, our self-narrative, and where does that come from? It's just unreal to me. And okay, I always ask all of my guests this one question. What is the last best thing you do every night before you go to bed?
I would probably say I always try and do a little bit of like skincare before I go to bed, because I like taking care of myself and turning that love in towards myself. God, I don't know. The last best thing before I go to bed every night, I think it's just going through everything that happened today, especially with all the drama at work.
Oh, right.
Okay, what are you going to leave here with today, and what are you going to decide to take in with you tomorrow? I don't have the space in my brain or coping skills to deal with all of yesterday's drama and the future dramas of today. So I tried really hard to like wipe my slate clean, leave work at work. I can't save everybody, because I'm over here trying to save all these women, and I can't take it personally if they relapse. I can't. So just knowing that all I can control is myself, the Serenity Prayer, accepting what I can change, what I can't change, and just being truly grateful. Oh, that's probably going to be my answer.
Yeah.
Is just thinking about all the great things to be grateful for. A warm bed, a heater, a TV to watch. Meanwhile, all these kids in Gaza are getting killed every day. That's a whole nother topic.
Whole nother one.
And so with the state of the world being the way it is, I just truly count my blessings and appreciate them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you it's a testament. You are truly you should be very proud of yourself, and I'm proud of you. But I did learn something and it goes back to self-love. You can feel pride for somebody else, and you can tell them that. But when you can tell yourself that you are proud of where you're at and what you're doing, that's where the strength comes from.
Yeah, I love it. I tell myself that all the time now.
Yeah, I know. And I'm so glad that you're here and that we got to talk.
Thank you for asking me to do this, Carrie. I look forward to building a friendship with you, and we'll be friends on other platforms and support each other. And I hope anyone that's listening to this, if you're still stuck in the depths of addiction, just give yourself a chance. I know you don't feel hope, but just give yourself a chance, because there's so much more to life than drugs and alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So,
yeah. There's hope.
So I am Major Christina 89 on Instagram and TikTok. And those are the two that I use the most.
Okay. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Carry On with Carrie. Christina G was brave enough again to share her story. Like, it's an amazing story, and quite the journey through life so far. And I'm just so grateful that she is where she is right now, and it's an inspiration for sure to other people suffering and families suffering with addiction in their family. It robs so many of such good people, and it's an epidemic right now, and I'm really thankful that Christina felt comfortable to share with me. And I think we're going to be talking in the future. She's a great woman, very inspiring. Give her a follow, please. Give her some support. You can also give me a follow on social media at carryonwithcarrie_podcast. That's on Instagram, and on Facebook at Carry On with Carrie Podcast. I am also available on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. It's exciting. I love it. I'm enjoying all of this. And again, just thank you to everyone who's supporting. I've gotten so many lovely messages from people, and it makes it all worthwhile. You do these things and you think, am I making a difference? And hearing from people and finding out that yes you are, it makes my day, and it makes this all worth doing. And I just thank you. That's all I can say. I hope that's good. But I hope you guys all, we're at minus 37 degrees where I am, and it's just crazy cold. My puppies are I don't want to go outside. And so I hope everybody that's in our area of Canada is staying safe and warm. And remember to give where you can. If you have an extra jacket or a blanket or just something, can you give it to somebody who needs, and giving back, it feels better for your mental health. It makes you feel good. I often think, what can I do? And what difference would it make? What could I do that would make a difference? How could I possibly impact this world? Well, it's a ripple effect, and it's just one little tiny deed at a time. It's one little act of kindness. We're at a time in this world where we need that the most. Hopefully, we can help just one more person at a time.